Okay, let's just get right down to it. They're saying that the ginormous claws found in the Gobi Desert belong to a never-before-seen species. And they're talking gigantic, huge bird, exceptionally preserved. All right, it's exceptionally preserved. That's the mud fossils. Now, this has a giant claw, and I'll explain to you what it is they found, but this is not ginormous by any means. You see this right here? I have the mud fossils, and this is, they're talking about keratin sheath. This is keratin sheath right around muscle. They're talking about exceptional preservation. This is exceptional preservation. Okay, my friends, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but they're talking about this huge claw, gigantic, never seen before species. You got a big, gigantic dinosaur, exceptionally preserved, atypical, 2 fingers tipped with a gigantic claw talon. Keratin sheath still clearly visible. Well, this keratin is a really, heavy-duty fibrous stuff in fingernails and horns and all that. And it also makes the straps, a really gnarly spot on the bottom of the chicken when you bite into that little gnarly hard spot. That's basically keratin, which straps from one body part to another, and that's this. And then you get into the collagen, which is the thin, fibery, elastic stuff that really gets strappy. And they're both right here on this piece of meat. I have so much stuff, it's hard to believe this stuff. There we got little bits and pieces of things, and you know, that's good, that's fine. I don't want to dismiss that, but these are all turned into mud fossils. These are not like bones, these are now mud fossils. All right? And they're talking about 12-inch long fingertip claw like this, and they're showing a huge bird standing there, and huge discovery. Anyway, pretty unexpected. Now, let's take a look at what was unexpected that I found. So they're showing a little claws, exceptional preservation. Well, Caesar would take exception to that. I mean, this is exceptional preservation. Here's Caesar right here in the flesh and stone. Here's his feathers. And all of my stuff basically died laying flat like that, and then it somehow snapped off. But that would have been where his body was like just laying there. And if you get it in the right light and the shadows, you can see where the structure of his neck and his throat and everything was. And of course the artery is there, there's a vein over here. Now, you have to understand how to look at things with mud fossil eyes, but you can see that's basically his throat. And you can even see a little trail here of where his throat would have been, and it's sort of, you know, flattened out. And really they were boiled in the ocean at this particular time. That was the Great Dying. It created the 3 layers, the red bed, the gray clay, and the black cap, which I have a human footprint in that layer right here. That's gray clay. It's pushed down through the red bed, so they were both wet at the same time. It's a human footprint. And then the black cap came down on top of all that. We also have no toes, actual feet from creatures that you know, petrified in the same and fossilized in the same exact mud fossil way as this, which is nucleophilic invasion. The same with this giant hair follicle from a giant something. It's definitely a hair follicle, and that right there is the erector pili muscle, attaches right there. That right there is the sebaceous gland to oil the hair shaft that comes up here. That's the hair shaft root down to where it starts at the very bottom. And these 2 holes right there, 2 little round spots, are the vein and artery at the bottom. It's 2 inches wide hair shaft. That's a little bit bigger than yours and mine. So I have evidence here to support every word I'm saying, and this is what they're showing, is some little claw and a bits and pieces of what they have. Now, I am in the best Triassic rock era in the world. Right there. That's exactly where I'm in the center of that black spot right there in Connecticut. And that is what's called exposed Triassic rock. It's just stuff just laying all over. I didn't have to dig for any of this stuff, just laying there. It's exposed because what happened was the Great Flood happened, the red bed, the gray clay, the black cap, which is a human footprint I just showed you, and then all the giants died, and they're laying on top of that boiled out flesh in that gray clay, and the black cap primarily eroded away. This particular spot didn't for some reason. It's absolutely flawless. All three layers are there, just packed away. Now, this goes right on top. The red bed was still wet when the gray clay, which was wet, was pushed down through the red bed. Not supposed to be under it, but this is, and it's gray clay under. And then the black cap, which if tipped on this way, that's the three layers of the Triassic. And that is what they consider happened millions of years ago. No, I don't agree with that at all. Now, what else did I find other than this? Well, DNA tested fingertip right there, 3 feet long. 36 inches from the very back to the very front of the tip. Now, take a second and look at it, because it's a fingertip. You probably got some on your hands too. It comes right around here like that. So you got to look at that little. You got to look at the fine detail. Very, very good shape. This is like a little. This part of the layer sort of flaked off, but it left this like a piece up here on the top part. This is the thickness of each layer of the fingertip is like just like a quarter of an inch or something on each layer, and there's about a zillion layers down. So anyway, this is the fingernail, still there. And when I found it, this piece was still there too. When I looked at it, there was no way I could get blood out of it. It was just a solid. I mean, there's a thick coating on fingers and toes and your feet and your hands, the palms of your hands and so forth. Very thick. It's like a rubber glove. That's what you're made to do all the work with that. It's called grip skin. That's what I call it. And it's loaded with what they call plagioclases, which are fibers that are just grippy and tough and stretchable and pullable and all that stuff. So, but it's tough and it's thick, and I'll show you that in detail in a minute. So what I had to do is smash this piece off. I could see there was a fingernail was right there, and there was like a little split there, as I recall. And this goes back a lot of years, well, like 12 years ago or more. And I decided, well, I'll break this piece off. So I took a big hammer and bam, and it popped off just like a scab. It was just like it was pasted on there, because it's the grip skin. Now, don't forget, that's the fingernail. Bam. Right next to your fingernail, you start your fingerprints. So I'm this far away from the fingernail. Will I find any fingerprints? Well, guess what? Yes. And here they are. Here's the fingerprints that I found. Remember, I said the grip skin, there's no blood in there. You're not going to get blood out of that. There's no way. Well, let me put it this way, very hard to find any blood in that. That is just like a rubber coating, which is this. Popped right off there like a scab. Hold on, I have a piece right here. You see that? That's that piece right there. You hear it clicking like that? That's hard stuff, baby. That is hard. And that's the thickness of the skin. And it's just like that. It's just like pasted on there, like it's like you see that? That's not fractured. There's no fracture here. That's just like glued, just like this right here. It's just laying on there, glued on there. That's fractured. See this part right here? That's fractured. That's not fractured. Totally different. It's total difference, see it? This is not fractured. But where these come together here, it is fractured, see it? That's totally different than that, which is glued on here. Now, these are the sweat pores. You see those? Those are actual sweat pores. So this, and now that's DNA tested. That is DNA tested. And here's the DNA reports. Now that goes back 10 years ago. And there was 3 samples tested. There was that huge fingertip, a lung, which is the same size as ours, which is this right here. All right. Now, the fingertip, I smashed, and I got down inside. Well, first of all, let me show you this, and then I'll tell you what happened with it. This is a very, very sophisticated test. This was the first test done ever on ancient DNA, giant human beings, absolutely for certain. And it said it was excellent quality DNA from the 36-inch tip, that big gigantic fingertip, and the lung, which is this one right here. And I'd go down inside of them. The fingertip I smashed open, so I didn't have to drill anything, but I dug it out of where the blood was. This is just saturated with blood on these tips. They're just completely saturated with blood. And, you know, you drill down and you get down inside and you take a sample out of there and send it off, and I had it tested. I was the one that sent him the samples to test. They had approximately 80 to 100 base pairs. That's like hitting the lottery 1,000 times in a row in a week. I mean, this is what it was Homo sapien, mitochondrial B, and D loop regions. And this was a very, very sophisticated test. It was not cheap. It took, I don't know, a month or more to do. And it was certified by the lab director, and it was very, very excellent people to work with. If you ever want something done, they don't do this stuff anymore, and I think it's because of the controversy around it. I know that it was very controversial, and basically I was shut out of the realm of being able to speak, because I had so much evidence to support myself, and all they could say was, "Oh, it must be you did something wrong. You did something wrong." No, I didn't. And you can test it again. It's here. It's available to be tested. There's nothing hidden here. You see this after Bennu, which they can't accept the evidence, and it's here on Earth. There's no question what it is. It's heart muscle. They want to go back up to Mars, and well, they were going to do it for $11 billion and come back by 2040. With the samples, but they decided to forget that. Look at this. The initial plan to return the samples collected by Perseverance rover estimated to cost $11 billion. Of course, that's never going to, it's going to be twice that for sure by then, and wouldn't see the samples return to Earth until the 2040s. That's just insanity. I know exactly what it is right now, and they do too. I know they do, because I know they've been following me. They know what I'm talking about. There's no question. They you know, in my mind, I could be wrong, but I've been after them for 10 years. I sent out all this stuff. When they found all this stuff up on Mars, they found the Mars blueberries, which are identical to the Moki marbles. They're all over Utah, Arizona, and these are nothing more than skin emplacements. All right, that's Moki marbles. Nothing more than skin, you know, tendon enthesis in the skin, these little black balls. They tag your skin so that you can move it around, but they'll come back on these straps when they erode off of these gigantic body parts. They go in the ocean, and then moss eats these end up being meatballs. The skin erodes and the meatballs fall out in here, and moss just eats away at it. In the freshwater regions, the moss is green. I'll show you that in a second. This is nothing more than interstitium. It's just a big web of stuff so your body can move around like this, and it comes back to wherever the balls are. When it all washes away, all the clays, which are the flesh, and they turn into literally mud and clay. Right here. And that's this too. On the side, there's all big piles of clay that these balls are embedded into. Now, that's in the cold weather, in the where they've been frozen forever. Now they're just coming out, and now they're just starting to be getting eaten by fresh water in a freshwater environment. All right, it's just being thawed out, and every single one of these, and there are literally millions of them. Every single one is coated with that moss. Inside that creature's body when it was alive, this was inside the creature's body, living in there. Once it died, it still has to eat, but instead of eating what it was fed, it's feeding off of where it was living, with just these tendon balls, not her little meatballs. You know, the crazy thing is, it's there for some reason on these tendon enthesis balls. All the bacteria in our body, and this is nothing more than bacteria in a creature's body, same as the kind of stuff that's in us, but now it's feeding on these balls. I wonder what chemistry that did inside the body, because it clearly comes from inside the body. There's no way that every single one of them could be invaded instantaneously by this green moss. Every one of these is covered with green moss, 100%. So that came from within the body of the creature. As it's thawing out now, and all of the fleshy stuff has eroded away, what's left is the meatballs. And every one of them has the same stuff on it. So that came came from inside the creature's body. So that's the kind of, these balls are the same balls as these, which are the same balls as the one I showed you here on the ocean over in the United Kingdom. Same thing. They're not stromatolites, they're enthesis balls. And they erode out just like these did. Only these are now in the process of being eaten. When they're done, they're going to end up with little balls in the side of them, which are the hard nut inside the fleshy meatball. Now, I think I have shown you a lot of stuff, but on Mars, they claim this took over millions and millions of years to create this. No, that is the slab of connective tissue, which is in sarcomeres. And these little slots that they pull in like this. This was all the red, bloody stuff that was inside the muscle has eroded out and created just like mud here on Earth it would be. Up there it's just dust. That's how I know this is Mars. There is no water erosion here whatsoever. This is impossible to happen on Earth. It cannot happen. Everywhere on Earth, sooner or later, there'll be some drops of rain. You would see some rivulets. You see none. This did not take millions of years. Happened just like that when this was hit by Venus, Mars. This is Mars. That's wider than the United States. That's not any little nick. That got hit by Venus, and Venus shows exactly the same kind of total, electrical discharge, really. Venus was more of an electrical discharge, and this was more of a gouge. Because Venus spins backwards at a tremendous amount of energy and extreme high heat, too. Over 800 degrees, somewhere in that area. And it spins backwards, which gives it like a double magnetic field, just devastating. Arcs, and just ate away right through here. See that? There's Venus's scar. That's electrical discharge. You talk to any welder, they'll tell you that's electrical discharge. And that is where it hit Mars. This is all recorded in the ancient texts. Venus itself almost hit Earth, caused a great flood, boiled the oceans, and created the Great Flood, which was the Triassic era, the red bed, the gray clay, the black cap. The red bed is the boiled, fleshy material, boiled from the creature's bodies, and it's settled as a red bed, and then above it, the body parts and the floatable sort of stuff settled down as the gray clay. And there's a lot of body parts in it, but there's a lot of just gray clay, which is fleshy, more structural, fleshy stuff. Connective tissue, tendony, collagens, and so forth. And then you have a lot of body parts in there, which are absolutely stunningly preserved, as you have seen. To detail that's just unbelievable. And that's why it's never been believed. But this is what caused it, by boiling the oceans. Now, Harvard just had an article. They said, yes, the oceans boiled. They put some ridiculously long distance time frame back in the past that it happened. Well, I disagree with that totally. Everything I have is on the surface of the Earth. I just picked it up off the top. See, this is on Venus itself. They landed, and this is all the Venus blueberries. It's the same stuff. That's skin on top of this Venus blueberries. Or it appears that everything is made out of biology, and where they landed on top of some fractured open skin. We can see the interstitium right underneath the layer of skin. And this is Venus. This is not Mars. Mars has the same stuff. So does Earth. Everywhere that I know of does. So don't forget. Little tiny skin enthesis, skin enthesis, skin enthesis, Mars, Alaska, Venus, some more on Mars. This is the Mars interstitium, or it's called the Mars Morse code. These are all those little interstitium balls. And these are the straps that hold them in place. And this is pinched together skin, stretched skin. That's all it is. And when it relaxes, they all go sort of into this, relaxed mode. And then they can be pulled, they can be stretched, they can be pinched, they can do anything you want. And then they'll come back to this relaxed mode when they stop being stressed. Once again, no question whatsoever, this is Mars, because there is no erosion, none, zero. This is just dusted, like sandblasted. And these are the balls that are left over, that are the Mars blueberries eventually. All that stuff will go at some point. But now, they're just very easy to see. I reported all this stuff to NASA back in 2015, and ended up, I saw that Yale got funded by NASA to verify mud fossils, and they said, yes, exceptional preservation does happen, but only happens to slimy little things. Well, we know that's not true. Caesar would take terrible offense at that. He's not a slimy little creature. He's my goose. Caesar Augustus. A true relic of history, my friends. And again, I have all the things to support what I'm saying. Now, I expect to have somebody in the government stand up for me and say, Roger, let's listen to what you have to say. You've presented evidence. Nobody will look at it. We're here for you because we are your representatives. We're your representatives in government. Government is here to protect me, I thought. So far, it has done nothing to protect me. I went to the Army. I did what I was supposed to do, thinking I was being a real patriot. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I expect them to stand up for me now. That's what I expect to happen. And we want to spend another $11 billion or whatever it's going to take to go back up there. I watched Bill Nelson about this. He's a director of space in NASA, I guess. And he was just, we can make it do it for $6 billion and have it back here by 2030 maybe. That's insanity. I just showed you what it is. This is muscle sarcomeres. Muscle sarcomeres. And the same thing is on Bennu, and we have that already on Earth. They refuse to examine it. Absolutely refuse. All right, we're going to go through the whole thing one last time here. These are muscle sarcomeres. These little blocks have little red erodible stuff and very tough little tiny straps running through there. In between every block of sarcomeres is what's called a phospholipid membrane, which is phosphates, phosphorus. This is what a heart muscle looks like here on Earth. That is heart muscle from a heart attack victim. Now, this is what they came back from Bennu with. It's the exact same stuff. This is the membrane, which is phospholipid membrane. It's phosphorus. That is the sarcomeres. The blocky little sarcomeres. I'll show you close up in a second. Then you have another layer of, which is the phosphomembrane. Then you have more sarcomeres above that. And here it is right here. All right, so they're showing this, then closer, and then real close. And they never expected to see this phosphate. This is called the phosphate surprise. They have found all the same molecules that are in the body, DNA and RNA and all of the amino acids and uracil and all the nucleobases of the DNA. I mean, it's there. It was from a heart, because this is what it looks like. It's a heart. These are the valves of the heart. That valve let blood come this way. That valve let blood go only that way. This is probably the aorta over here. But this was a heart. When they landed, they went deep inside, grabbed a chunk, and came back, and it was actually muscle, as you just saw. Muscle, muscle. That's it, from a heart. What do hearts look like? They look just like this. just exactly what I showed you. This is another heart that's in space. It's called Psyche. And it's another heart. What's out in space was giant creatures, and now we can't accept the truth of the matter. If you can't accept the truth, at least look at it. If it's not able to be spoken of because it's peer-reviewed, we can't speak about that because you destroy people's minds. No, you have destroyed their mind by not allowing people to be spoken of. And this is what happened in our education system. I expect to be something from Christopher Dodd. I mean, oh boy, Dodd used to be the senator here. It's Christopher Murphy. A lot of Christophers going on in Connecticut. Anyway, I expect something. I expect to hear something. I have the evidence. My stuff's DNA tested. I have CAT scans. I have the specimens. I have Caesar. I got everything. And I expected some kind of a response, which I've never had one yet. And I haven't had any from Trump either. Now he's talking about truth this and truth social and so forth. Well, let's see some truth. Let's get in. Let's talk. Let's talk truth. That's all I'm asking for. A discussion about the evidence. If the evidence doesn't hold up, well, it doesn't hold up. I think it holds up. I think you do too. And when you see the stuff that I have, and the things people send me, I'm overwhelmed now. And by the way, I'm sorry, I'm not responding to many things. I just can't do it. Everybody's sending me things. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? To look into everything, and especially they don't have details that are adequate. Let me put it that way. They just circle something and say, what do you think you see? I said, well, I see a circle. I can't spend that much time looking at every little detail. Because nobody look at the things that are just impossible to ignore. They refuse to look at that. So why put more on a pile? Just makes it look less believable. And if you can't see that as heart muscle sarcomeres, you got a problem. You got an issue, especially when it's got all the DNA characteristics, the RNA, the organic molecules, the phospholipid layers, the sarcomere blocks. It's clay, which is nothing more than flesh. And this is not accepted. It won't be accepted because it's too much. And it overthrows virtually everything they have told us about our history, about geology, about everything, basically everything. And it brings God into the picture big time. And who is God? That's my mission right now, to understand what was it really all about. Because everything here is biology, 100%. Everything in space is biology. Everything I have found. I have meteorites here. They're biological. You find blood right inside of iron meteorites. You cut them open, there's blood. Everything out there was biology, just as is Mars, as is Earth, as is Bennu, as is Psyche, as is Oumuamua, as is Comet 67P. All of them, 100% biological. So I expect to hear something from somebody and to disprove me what I'm saying. That's all. I want it to be examined. They allowed talking about sea serpents, a big, why was everybody talking about sea serpents? Well, because they were real. And guess what? They were parasites from the creatures that died, and they were in their bloodstreams and then somewhere in their bodies, and were not affected by the Great Flood because they were hidden inside the bodies of these creatures. When they died, they still had to get something to eat, so they went out in the oceans, and sooner or later they ended up eating the ships, and finally the people on the ships figured a way to kill them all, and they pretty much wiped them out. They were just too big to exist other than to eat these ships and things. There's just not enough food in the ocean for them. That's the way I'm seeing it. And they were parasites, though. So, all right, that's it for today. I hope to hear something, Senator Murphy, and I hope everybody else sends this to their representatives. We're spending billions of dollars, and they're complaining they need more money for education because the kids are not getting educated enough. All they're doing is telling them what to say, and if they can repeat, they're called educated. I don't see that. I see this as education. Let's talk about this. Let's decide, how did this happen? This gives them a whole new perspective on life. These kids have been denied reality. It was just as I was, just as you are. And you still are today. All right, I love you all.